A big weekend.
Sir.
Great weekend.
What I'm also noticing is that President Trump is being a bit forceful, and I like it.
See you on the plane.
They were with you on the plane?
They travel.
Most of them, yeah.
They have better seats than I do.
You say no.
I think he should continue to do that.
They said, you did it, sir, you did it. Well, I don't know if I did it, but I think I did.
I questioned some things because, like all Republicans, that's what we do. We do research, we look into things, we make sure.
Momentous moments get missed.
What he's doing is kind of plugging up the holes. And I encourage people who are particularly our age and younger to do some research.
Well, I can't talk to you about intelligence.
I had to go all the way back 40 years ago, so I went back further past where I was born.
You are a man of strength, but you're also a man of peace.
And so not getting into the weeds because we don't have all the information. What I will say is that I do think that we need to look at this big, beautiful bill.
You saw that where 14 missiles were shot at us the other day. And they were very nice. They gave us warning. They said, we're going to shoot them. Is 1 o'clock okay? They said, it's fine.
It's really difficult to tell the American people that you have to continue to, kind of bite the bullet.
We're here this morning because in hunting for scandals all the time, in trying to find wedges and spin stories, this press corps and the press corps.
But sometimes that's what you have to do.
In these leaks, what you typically have is someone who read it and then leaks it to the media, giving it the spin and the angle they wanted to have because they've got some purpose. Embarrass the administration.
The world is a much safer place. After decades in which past presidents coddled and enabled the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism.
This is about Europeans, Canadians paying more.
The mission, which will go down in the history books, was an overwhelming.
It's like shooting a bullet with a bullet.
The contrast in leadership could not be more clear. Barack Obama and Joe Biden sent pallets of cash.
I wish there could have been cameras in there.
President Trump sent a fleet of American warplanes to destroy.
Significant, very significant, substantial damage was done to a variety of different components, and we're just learning more about it.
The United States, Israel, the United Nations, and even Iran all agree they can no longer build a nuclear weapon.
We have a tremendous group of people on my left and a tremendous group of people on my right. They might be even better than my people. I don't know.
Why did the president immediately turn to obliterating?
We made a deal with Ukraine to take a vast amount of the land they have for minerals. We need it.
A new era of peace and stability that President Trump has long called on them to achieve.
You heard the prime ministers and presidents of other countries, to a man and to a woman, looking at President Trump and saying, this never could have happened.
America is once again respected across the world.
Do you have a timeline for when you will have a full assessment of exactly the damage that was
Well, this is a very unique target set.
Our allies agreed to invest 5% of their GDP annually in defense because President Trump demanded it.
When Biden was here, it just died like everything else died.
We will produce trillions more for our common defense to make us stronger and fairer.
They were maligned and treated very bad, demeaned by fake news CNN, which is back there, believe it or not, wasting time, nobody's watching them, so they're just wasting a lot of time, wasting my time. And the New York Times, they put out a story that, well, maybe they were hit, but it wasn't bad. Well, it was so bad that they ended the war. It ended the war.
Americans are paying much cheaper prices for gasoline this summer, as both the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times pointed out today.
Never would have happened. It seemed impossible 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 8 years ago.
These are the cheapest gas prices at this point of the summer since 2021.
By the way, it's not just me saying this.
One big beautiful event in the East Room to rally Republicans to get the one big beautiful bill across the finish line.
I was so proud of them because they came back. They went out because they felt there was a violation. And technically they were right, but it just wouldn't have worked out very well.
None of you in this room knew about the strike on Saturday until it took place.
If you look at Hiroshima, if you look at Nagasaki, that ended a war too. This ended a war in a different way.
Caroline, next week the president mentioned there to be talks with Iran. Didn't mention any details, and Iran has not confirmed them. Can you share any details about any potential talks next week?
We don't have anything scheduled as of now.
But searching for scandals, you miss historic moment.
The meeting was a good meeting, and it was a meeting towards progress. And the president, as he said repeatedly,
The president deserves a tremendous amount of credit for taking this bold stand, and these pilots did something
it
extraordinary.
was a surprise to everyone in this room. It was a surprise to the world, but the president got it done because he wants to see peace in this world.
We hear it was obliteration. It was a virtual obliteration.
I believe that that action would have to be legislative through Congress, and the president directed Congress to get that done in his Truth Social post yesterday.
What bothered me about these reports with fake reports put out by the New York Times, I call it the failing New York Times because it's doing terribly. Without me, it would be doing no business at all. But, and by fake news, CNN and MSDNC, all of these terrible people, you know, they have no credibility.
I'm sure our great Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, is already looking into it.
Yeah, maybe there'll be a little mention here or there, but let me read the bottom line here.
Said that the DIA report was low confidence intel. Can you share what other assessments are currently underway to get to the bottom of just how effective these strikes were?
Look, you know as well as anyone that you have a base that is extremely skeptical of foreign entanglements based on classified information that can't be shared with the public.
This was a low confidence preliminary intelligence assessment, and the entirety of that assessment was not leaked to the media. Only tidbits of that assessment were leaked to CNN, and we have seen this playbook run before.
When you talk to the people who built the bombs, understand what those bombs can do, and deliver those bombs,
the FBI is investigating to find out who that leaker was because it's illegal.
When I started, they were at 94% credibility, the media. Now it's at 16%. And I'm very proud of it.
We all know that's not true, right? We can all agree on that now. That was a lie from the intelligence community.
Whether it's fake news, CNN, MSNBC, or the New York Times, there's been fawning coverage of a preliminary assessment.
Journalism is trying to find the facts and the truth.
That's wiped out. You can rebuild anything that's destroyed. You could if you wanted to, but it's completely wiped out. And so they can't do that today.
I was aghast at the headline. It's egregious to accuse this administration of trying to target foster children.
They landed precisely where they were supposed to, so it was a flawless mission.
Flawless.
Right down where we knew they needed to enter. And given the 30,000 pounds of explosives and capability of those munitions, it was devastation.
We are trying to keep children out of harm's way, even if that means their parents are not law-abiding citizens.
When I saw them starting to question the caliber of the attack, was it bad? Well, it was really bad. It was devastating. They obliterated. In fact, you can't get into the tunnel.
Unlike the previous administration, which allowed children to be trafficked and raped.
It points out that it's not been coordinated with the intelligence community at all. There's low confidence in this particular report. It says in the report there are gaps in the information.
It's another example of fake news.
It was already in bad shape and unusable, and now it's worse off.
How confident are you that you'll find this leaker?
Well, I'm not personally looking for the leaker. The FBI is.
Any assessment that tells you it was something otherwise is speculating with other motives, and we know that.
It was a very few people, few number of people.
We can't forget our submarine, which was out there, submarines actually, but submarine was out there.
In our government who saw this report, that person was irresponsible with it.
If you're wrong, everything else is wrong.
The FBI is searching for that person.
The hard one, the one that was really difficult, is Forbes.
Thanks, Caroline. The president was
and clearly it was done to undermine the president.
There was no moon, there was no light, and those three holes are right together. And also, and nobody talks about this.
Before the strikes on Iran, we saw a number of other leaks about Tulsi Gabbard, the Vice President Vance. Is there an effort to divide the president's team?
It took that a lot, because we didn't do just Fordo, we did two others in addition.
Sometimes you have to look at these headlines and laugh, because I've been in meetings where I know these things are absolutely not true.
This is preliminary, but leaked because someone had an agenda to try to muddy the waters and make it look like this historic strike wasn't successful.
There is fake reporting. That's just the reality of this country, unfortunately.
Does this mean the job is done and you can rule out the possibility of near-term future strikes?
Well, that was never the goal here.
I saw some senators rolling out of the Oval Office the other day.
We shot 30 Tomahawks from submarines, in particular one submarine, but that was 400 miles away.
I don't share details about his private meetings without his permission.
Have any of these quotes made their way into the New York Times or the Washington Post?
I think any common sense, open-minded person knows the truth about the precision strikes on Saturday night.
The truth of the matter is that happened on Saturday night. By Monday night, we had a ceasefire. So 48 hours later.
Again, I would just emphasize the success of the strike that took place on Saturday night, and the world is a safer place because of it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's a good-looking group behind me. This group isn't too bad either. We took them out with tomahawks. We don't even talk about that. This was a devastating attack, and it knocked them for a loop. But it was very stealth. They didn't get to see it. It was dark. That's the amazing thing about the shots. They hit the shots perfectly, and yet it was dead dark. There was no moon. There was no light. It was virtually moonless. It was very dark, and the shots were hit perfectly. But when they get demeaned,
MSNBC, CNN, any of these?
We're hitting 3 targets. We're not hitting regime people. We're not trying to overthrow the government. We're not looking to invade. We're going to hit.
Very nice. Nice to be with you. Beautiful, right? Beautiful. Thank you very much. They wouldn't have settled. Somebody mentioned that to me last night.
How about this one? This is a new one.
Regime change. Okay, some people in your party really want it.
Thank you all for being here to support one of the most important pieces of legislation in the history of our country. Marco, do you have something to say?
No, first of all, on this stuff about the intelligence, this is what a leaker is telling you.
That's why he beat ISIS, and we beat ISIS in a matter of weeks.
Time and time again, I can go down the list. Those that understand, those that see, those that do proper assessment.
Where is the president at? Where is the administration at?
There should be no confusion about what the president said.
Everybody's saying that, virtually everybody. The one big, beautiful bill.
That's the game these people play.
We're talking about a lot of money coming in from countries.
And before I pass it to the chairman, because you, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically cheer against Trump so hard.
Maybe there will be regime change.
Wow, that's a hell of a group. I think that's the biggest group of cabinet members. That's the biggest group of cabinet.
They're leakers. This is the game they play. So that's number one. Number two, here's a fact.
I have, as you know, Marco Rubio with me and Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State and Secretary of War. Should we say Secretary? You know, it used to be called Secretary of War.
It's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump.
The United States' job is not to go around and set up governments for every country.
Everybody wants to be with us because we have the hottest country in the world. A year ago, we had a disaster on our hand. We had the coldest country, I think, by far. And now we have the hottest, the King of Saudi Arabia.
The conversion facility, which you can't do a nuclear weapon without a conversion facility. We can't even find where it is.
Maybe for a couple of weeks we'll call it that because we feel like warriors. Used to be called Secretary of War.
Because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective.
Which is exactly right, look.
And they thought we were dead a year before that. They said, I thought you were dead. The country was dead. And it was pretty close to it.
You can't even find where it used to be because the whole thing is just blackened out. It's gone.
It's wiped out.
It's wiped out. Then we dropped 12 of the strongest bombs on the planet right down the hole in 2 places.
What makes you so confident it is? And what do you do if it isn't?
Because I dealt with both. And they're both tired, exhausted. They fought very, very hard and very viciously, very violently, and they were both satisfied.
Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented him isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it. Spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind.
Spending all your money on Hamas and Hezbollah instead of on your own people.
You know, you and Howard and Scott are working overtime, making deals with other countries. The press was saying, do you really have anybody of any interest? We just signed with China. We have everybody. We're not going to make deals with everybody. Some we're just going to send them a letter, say, thank you very much. You're going to pay 25, 35, 45%.
Everything underneath that mountain is in bad shape.
I think the war ended, actually, when we hit the various nuclear sites with the planes.
How many stories have been written about how hard it is to I don't know, fly a plane for 36 hours.
The plan here was very simple. Hit the 3 sites, the 3 nuclear sites, and get out. And he did it.
That's the easy way to do it. And my people don't want to do it that way. They want to do some of it, but they want to make more deals than I would do. But we're having some great deals.
There was Iran, the way it looked the day before the attack, and what their nuclear program looks like now. 2 very different things. They are way behind.
And that was a vicious war that went on, a machete war. Heads chopped off all over Africa. They're coming in.
Has MSNBC done that story?
Tragically, more Americans died evacuating from Afghanistan than were killed in this operation, because the number in this operation were 0.
Actually, I like these people and most of those people much better than the people I just named.
So the great thing is you took out the nuclear capability of Iran. This was crucial. You did it in a way which is extremely impressive.
Our people, Marco could answer this, but our people are not, I'm not.
As Fox, have we done the story how hard that is?
Some scolding from President Trump for some bad behavior on both sides.
Mike Johnson, who's great, legendary guy. He's going to go down as a legend.
He's a man of peace, but if necessary, he is willing to use strength.
It wasn't supposed to be able to be one. They said, well, we have a very young, handsome guy. I said, does that matter? Looks don't matter, do they, Mike? Looks. Anyway, well, we blew it up. It's blown up to kingdom come. And so I don't feel very strongly about it. Great job. You can't help it. You can't help it. Great.
Have we done it 2 or 3 times so that American people understand? How about how difficult it is to shoot a drone from an F-15 or 16 or F-22 or F-35?
Where is Rob? Somebody brought that up, and 2 Iranians went down to see it, and they called back, and they said, this place is gone.
Time and time again, classified information is leaked or peddled for political purposes to try to make the president look bad.
We'll see what happens. There's a lot of spirit. Look, Vladimir Putin really has to end that war. People are dying at levels that people haven't seen before for a long time. Go ahead. Go ahead.
How about we celebrate that?
Stand up, Rob. Let me see you. Good.
Conduct any further operations unless they were attacked by Iran.
How about we talk about how special America is, that only we have these capabilities?
When Joe Biden used to get up and say, we will stop this horrible MAGA. We're going to stop MAGA. We're going to fight it. I said, Joe, loosen up. It's called Make America Great Again. It's okay. So it's just fake news by CNN, which has got no ratings. It's a failed network. Anybody here from CNN, by the way? Because you're a really disgraceful network. MSNBC, I think, is actually worse.
I think it's too much to ask, unfortunately, for the fake news.
Remember, he got up so angry. He was so angry. He said, make America great again. It's pretty equal. In other words, if it's 4%, it's 4%. If you drop it a point, you'll pay 3%. So it's fairly equal. Not necessarily, but fairly equal.
You want to call it destroyed? You want to call it defeated? You want to call it obliterated? Choose your word.
We've done so well on the border. You know, last month, we had 0 people that crossed the border. 0.
I don't remember the time. It was maybe 3 a.m. Jerusalem time.
It gives us a chance to have peace, chance to have a deal, and an opportunity to prevent a nuclear Iran, which is something President Trump talked about for 20 years, and no other presidents had the courage to actually do.
People forget about that. They don't care. The border's been fixed. I wanted to talk about the border 2 days ago at a big group. Sir, they don't want to hear about the border. Why? It's fixed. You know what Marco reminded me? He did such a nice job there.
They literally dreamed about this target at night when they slept.
I fixed it in about 3 months. It was beautiful. And they wouldn't let me talk about the border. Sir, nobody wants to hear about the border. But we're going to talk about it anyway, right, Tom? So we're going to end up paying maybe 2 points or 3 points more. 3 points would be about $900 billion a year because of this very average mentally person.
On a day in June of 2025, more than 15 years after they started their life's work, the phone rang and the President of the United States ordered the B-2 force that you've supported to go strike and kill this target.
We have a big number of dollars that's coming here because we want to keep it that way and we want to keep it fixed.
There's always a few skirmishes. Maybe someone's clock was set wrong and so they missed the time.
Unlike a normal surface bomb, you won't see an impact crater because they're designed to deeply bury and then function.
That's a mental institution on steroids. When you were into your little thing, I said, this is when I had to debate this guy. You think it's easy to debate him? It's not easy.
And the pilot stated, quote, "This was the brightest explosion that I've ever seen. It literally looked like daylight."
I talk about the late, great Hannibal Lecter. Do you know who that is, Hannibal Lecter? Silence of the Lambs. He's an average mentally person. I'd say low in terms of what he does, low IQ for what he does.
There were male and female aviators on this mission, and a crew member told me when I talked to them on video the other day that this felt like the Super Bowl.
The fake news would go crazy. Why does he keep mentioning, well, because we won in a landslide?
Unfortunately, tragically, in those final hours.
Thank you, by the way, for that extensive work, the lay down. I mean, even, do you have that laser pointer? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, squaring me away as always. I mean, even in...
That's why they don't want to have Hannibal in our midst. But had we not succeeded with that hit ended the war. That hit ended the war.
These are the types of things that go into the planning for a strike that the Pentagon would not expect the press corps or the American people to initially understand.
That's not bad, right? Look, I'm looking at that guy back there, right? That's pretty good. He's probably a very political guy, I guess. I don't know. I think he's a very stupid person, actually. All right, one more. Let's go. How about you? Go ahead.
They're not expecting their story to be told. They're not expecting the glory. They are grateful for the flags and the hugs of family.
It's hard to believe. This is on top of, we have to fight this guy.
Literally murdered people.
And the President of the United States knows. And that's why it's almost personal when we see the way in which leaks are used to try to disparage the outcome or muddy the waters about the impact of what happened.
That's a lot of cutting, and this guy could do it so easily. I don't want to use an example of Hiroshima.
Sir, like I said, we don't do BDA.
We don't have inflation. Well, we might have inflation. Yeah, and if you do, you raise the rate a little bit. That's okay. I do like Spain, by the way. I think it's unfair that they're not paying, but go ahead.
Are you going to negotiate directly with Spain about...
I think I explained what changed. There was a great deal of irresponsible reporting based on leaks, preliminary information in low confidence.
But we're going out because Biden gave us a lot of short-term debt.
He dropped an F-bomb. I haven't heard that from him in public before.
When someone leaks something, they do it with an agenda. And when you leak a portion of an intelligence assessment, but just a little portion that makes it seem like maybe the strike wasn't effective, then you start a news cycle. Whether it's the Washington Post or Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, you start a news cycle that starts to call into question the ethics.
I think what we'll do is we'll probably just extend the short-term debt and then go out, because I don't want to tie it up for 10 or 15 years at a high rate. I don't want to use an example of Nagasaki.
You bring the chairman here who's not involved in politics. He doesn't do politics. That's my lane to understand and translate and talk about those types of things. So I can use the word obliterate.
Every point is it's really more, is 300 billion. So if we got it down to 1%, we're talking about almost $1 trillion in saving. I'm going to negotiate directly with Spain. I'm going to do it myself. They're going to pay. They'll pay more money this way. You should tell them to go back and pay. You're a reporter? You tell them to go back.
If you want to know what's going on at Fordo, you better go there and get a big shovel.
The other day from the people in Congress, because we're doing our bill, I didn't even tell you this, Mike.
Whatever it takes.
See, this is a point. This is how difficult it is to actually manage. You just watched a video of what this weapon is capable of.
They called. They said, there's something wrong with the numbers, sir. I said, what's wrong? I don't know. They're not balancing out. There's something really wrong. I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, we don't know. I said, what's the problem? We're taking in much more money than we have scheduled. I said, so far, that sounds good. If they rebuild?
Would the United States strike again? And I have also a question about Russia.
But I'm not going to have to worry about that.
You cited a body of credible intelligence to suggest the damage at Fordo and other places. What is that referring to, and when can we see it?
I was reading from the CIA director's statement, which came out last night.
They said, how much is it? About $80 billion. I said, do me a favor, check the tariff line. They called me back an hour later. Sir, we've taken in $88 billion in tariffs. Let me just tell you, you and NBC, fake news, which is one of the worst, and CNN, New York Times, are all bad. They're sick. There's something wrong with them.
He's going to know things that you're not going to know. that the press isn't going to know.
All of these things are happening. And by the way, there's no inflation. All of the numbers I gave you.
It was the right move on his part.
And that's what he's basing it on.
You think we need to see that?
Do you have a top secret clearance, sir?
We have auto plants. They're closing up in other countries. I don't want to specifically name the countries, but you know who they are. The tunnels are totally collapsed.
They rebuilt.
Well, they've already looked at the tunnels. This was an unbelievable hit by genius pilots and genius people.
It's usually, the initial report is usually wrong, sometimes grossly so. Is this what happened in this incident?
Just think of that, no tax on tips, and it was a very big problem. I was at a dinner in my beautiful building in Las Vegas, and unrelated to this, and I said, what's going on? I will never say good-looking waitress, because looks don't matter anymore, you know, in our modern society. She happened to be beautiful, but I won't say that. I won't mention that, but nevertheless, a waitress came over, and I said, how are you doing? She said, not good, sir. Why? The government is killing me on tips. And she looked at me, she said, sir, there should be no tax on tips. I said, say it again. There should be no tax on tips. I said, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. I walked outside, the press was there, as always, waiting for something bad to happen, hundreds of them. I said, ladies and gentlemen, please announce tonight there will be no tax on tips. And a legend was made. We won Nevada by so much.
Who is your friend? He called you daddy earlier. Do you regard your NATO allies as kind of children?
No, he likes me. I think he likes me. If he doesn't, I'll let you know. I'll come back and I'll hit him hard, okay? No? He did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy.
Alongside what you just said, sir, is that the first reports are almost always wrong.
I want to thank that young, beautiful waitress.
The death row was up to 5 people in this building, beautiful family, young people that had been killed in that strike, so it was tough.
I would say Iran's going to have to say a lot of things right now in order to bolster their image, especially internally.
They hit the target, and the target has now been proven to be obliterated, just as we said. We have scum that's in this group, and not all of you are. You had some great reporters, but you have scum. CNN is scum. MSDNC is scum. The New York Times is scum. They're bad people. They're sick.
Our job is to be prepared. And how proud are you? How proud am I?
We had little fake news from CNN. Thank you very much, CNN. This was a big day for NATO. You know, this was a very big day. They took it.
Chairman, a question for you. Have you been pressured to change your assessment or give a more rosy intelligence assessment to us by any political factors, whether it's the president or the secretary? And if you were, would you do that?
Yeah, well, that one's easy. No. No, I have not, and no, I would not.
James was a lifelong Democrat until 2017, when he saw the benefits of our tax law, and he also liked Trump. Now, sometimes they can like the law.
He had a chart, and he brought out and he said, look.
It's not going to matter, right? Is that right, Marco? Marco knows. They're trying to make this unbelievable victory into something less. Oh, you are very pretty.
You think they can do it without you, though, in the future? Can they do it without?
Well, ask Mark.
States?
I mean, you have to ask Mark, okay? So we're heading back. How are you? I won't ask you where you've been, okay? I promise.
There's nothing that I've seen that suggests that we didn't hit exactly what we wanted to hit in those locations.
A foundation for stability and dignity. I think those were your words, right? Stability and dignity. Good words. For her family.
Every dollar you spend on military is money you're taking away from education, healthcare, all the stuff that people have come to benefit from in your government.
We will hire 3,000 new Border Patrol officers and 10,000 new ICE agents. But it wasn't hit on. It was hit brutally, and it knocked it out. The original word that I use, I guess it got us in trouble because it's a strong word. It was obliteration. And you'll see that. And it's going to come out. Israel is doing a report on it now, I understand. We're going to hire 3,000 new Border Patrol officers, 10,000 new ICE agents. We have the hottest country anywhere in the world. These ICE guys, they go into war zones, and they're tough, and they love our country.
And in fact, I was the first to describe the B-2 bombers, the refueling, the entire mission with great accuracy. So I take issue with that.
I appreciate you acknowledging
You
that
have
this was the
issues.
the most successful mission based on operational security that this department has done since you've been here, and I appreciate that. So
Absolutely.
we're looking at all aspects of intelligence.
Stupid policy. The dumbest policy, I think, well, we have a lot of dumb policies.
With the exception, unfortunately, of Spain, which has...
What are you going to do about that?
Well, it's a problem. I mean, it's a big problem. They claim they can do it for less, but Spain right now has deep internal political challenges. They have a left-of-center government.
It's so sad what that man has done to this country. We should never forget it, okay? We should never, ever forget it. With that whole group of people, I don't even think it was him. Total obliteration. You know, they have guys that go in there after the hit, and they say it was total obliteration.
I don't know what the hell's the matter with everybody up in Congress?
Acknowledge the female pilots that also participated in this mission. The early messages that you sent out only congratulated the boys.
So when I say something like our boys and bombers, see, this is the kind of thing the press does, right? Of course, the chairman mentioned a female bomber pilot. That's fantastic. She's fantastic. She's a hero. I want more female bomber pilots.
People are dying every day.
It's unfortunate. Spain is a country with capability.
We got over 600,000 illegal aliens with criminal histories walking the streets of this country. We got less than 5,000 deportation officers.
You know, I don't want it for me. I want it for the pilots. I want it for the military. They did such a good job. If you were in the Situation Room with me...
This should be a no-brainer. The more resources we get, if we get this bill passed...
When you spin it as, because I say our boys and bombers as a common phrase, I'll keep saying things like that, whether they're men or women.
We got more agents on the road. We buy more beds.
The agreement that Spain has reached is sustainable, and frankly, it puts them in a very tough spot.
Who the hell would be against that? And I get irritated, I get pissed off.
Without Trump, you wouldn't have a New York Times.
And then just changing gears to your meeting with Zelensky later today.
I'm sick of meeting angel moms and dads. You want to talk about family separation? They buried their children. So I've done this since 1984.
But it's the obsession with race and gender in this department that's changed priorities. We don't do that anymore. We don't play your little games.
Well, we need more border wall. Border walls save lives. Women and children can't get over that wall.
I mean, I'm going to meet him today. I don't know. I assume we're going to be discussing Ukraine.
For God's sake, let's pass this bill and get this done.
So I'm not aware of any intelligence that I've reviewed that says things were not where they were supposed to be, moved or otherwise.
Since January, over 80,000 Russian troops have been killed just since January. I think you compare that to the Ukrainian numbers are far less, so the death ratio is very bad, but Putin keeps feeding into the war machine.
He got so angry he didn't even shake my hand or look at me. Just I've spoken to Putin a lot, and he actually was very nice. He volunteered help on, as you know. We're cutting $1.7 trillion in this bill, and you're not going to feel any of it.
This preliminary report was what's called a restrike report. So it comes to us to give us an assessment whether a target would need to be restruck.
We're not cutting. The Democrats are going to destroy all three of them because it's not sustainable. They'll end up cutting your Medicare, Medicaid in half. So we're going to do a real job. It's so important. They all have borders. They have fences, they have walls, or they have just strong people standing there. You can't do it. And they said to me, you know, it's amazing that they allowed these things to happen. And it's amazing, too. I agree. You know, as a business guy, I always like to understand. I think great progress is being made on Gaza. I think because of this attack that we made, I want to have borders. I don't want to have transgender. I don't want to have men playing. He happened to be transitioned. Isn't that lovely?
Unfortunately, someone took advantage of that. But whatever is supposed to be made public will be.
5 hours, that's a lot. Think of it, you're waiting 5 hours for your beautiful daughter to come in. Come on, baby, let's go. You can do it. He won by 5 hours, and it's so demeaning, and they don't want to change. Guys like Schumer, our great Palestinian senator, this guy, no, he's changed. He used to like Jewish people. Now he's totally against Jewish people. It's the most incredible transformation I think I've ever seen.